is Gary Cato with Project SOS, and I'm very proud to sponsor this episode of Salute. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I am once again in Tavares at the Lake County Historical Museum, and I have the honor of having a Korean veteran, United States Marine Corps, and he's an article is written on you about the art of and journey of a cartoonist.
Right.
So I want to introduce Mr. Gene Packwood, and tell me a little bit about yourself. You were born in Chicago, you told me.
Born in Chicago, grew up in St. Louis. That's where I joined the Marine Corps. The war was over in 1945, the same year I graduated from high school, and I was all set to join the Marines at that time. I was 16 when I graduated, but I was 17 2 months later in August.
So what age did you go in? Did you go in at 17?
1948, 3 years later.
Oh, a few years
The
later.
reason I didn't go in 1945, my birthday was August the 9th. The first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on August the 6th. The second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki on my birthday in August the 9th. So everybody knew that the war was essentially over then, and my plans to join the Marine Corps then kind of dropped to the wayside.
So what year did you go in the Marines, you said?
In 1948.
48. So
I went to college for a year. That didn't work out. I knocked around at several different jobs, and finally I decided I was at a dead end, and that's when I joined the Marines.
yeah, but you didn't know Korea was coming up, did you?
Nobody knew Korea
Nobody
was
knew,
coming.
yeah. Yeah.
So I went to boot camp at Parris Island, and I was awaiting transfer to Camp Lejeune after boot camp. I was in what they call casual company, and I suddenly got orders to report to the Parris Island Boot newspaper as a staff artist. And I think my DI was responsible for that, because on letters home I would draw little cartoons to illustrate what like in boot camp was like, and he would monitor the mail before it went out just to see what the mood of the platoon was, I think. So anyway, I got my first chance as a cartoonist on the Parris Island Boot newspaper, and I think I can honestly say that the Marine Corps, I'm the only one that the Marine Corps actually set me on a course of my art career, which I'm still pursuing.
Yeah, so you've been drawing for a long time.
Well, I was on the Parris Island Boot for a little over a year, and I was transferred to the Marine Corps Gazette at Quantico. And I'd never done anything like that. I'd never worked on a magazine, but every job I had was something I'd never done before. So it was either learn on the job or go back to Camp Lejeune.
Yeah. How old are you now, sir?
Pardon me?
How old are you now?
93.
93. Are you still drawing?
I'm illustrating a series of children's books for a local author right now.
Oh, wow. Great. So when did you realize you had this talent? When you were a kid? Is that you?
I used to like to draw when I was in high school, but it never occurred to me that you could make a living at it. And we didn't have school counselors then that could kind of guide you in the right direction. So, like I said, the Marine Corps is the first people that really pushed me into artwork. And I had no choice with the assignments I had. So anyway, I was staff artist on the Marine Corps Gazette for the next 3 years until my discharge. And then 51, 52, I was on temporary duty as a combat artist in Korea for the Gazette.
Yeah, and I read something about, you made a comment about sometimes it's tough to draw when your hands were so cold or something. Do you remember that?
It was pretty cold. It got down to 30 below zero at night, and we had about 3 layers of clothes on all the time, and mittens and gloves inside the mittens. So it was hard to draw, but I tried to make some rough sketches, and I made one trip back to Tokyo to finish up the artwork and send it back to the States.
So your artwork is, I understand, in some museums, is it not?
Yes, a local retired colonel, Keith Oliver, who still does a veterans.
I know
weekly
him well,
commercial.
yes.
Keith interviewed me for a story, and then he was also responsible for making a contact with the museum, and that's how I got my work in there. So it's part of their permanent collection now.
That's great, that's great. So how long were you in the Marines now? You were during Korea. How long were you in Korea?
About 3 months,
3 months?
November, December, and January.
You didn't pick the
Coldest month.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you didn't pick your time there, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm sure that was quite the experience.
And after Korea, before I was discharged in June, I did a series of cartoons that were published in a book called Leatherhead in Korea. And I'd also done another previous book on Leatherhead in Boot Camp, which the Marine Corps Association published. And both of those are still available, I think, through Amazon.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I also read in the article, you got to meet some other artists with Snuffy Smith. Do you remember that?
Well, Snuffy Smith got me to Florida. During the war, Fred Laswell, who was the artist for Snuffy Smith, was on the Leatherneck staff as a staff artist. And he did a monthly cartoon called Hashmark. And I understand he was still working. So let me back up a little bit. Fred was working for Billy DeBeck, who started a cartoon called Barney Google.
Oh, yeah.
And Fred was still working part-time for Billy DeBeck while he was on Leatherneck. So as I heard the story, every time the check came in monthly from his work from Billy DeBeck, it was turned over to a local tavern, and the whole Leatherneck staff drank there until the money was gone.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, 1954, when I was on Leatherneck as art director, my wife and I went to Florida on vacation, and several of the guys on Leatherneck said, if you get to Tampa, be sure and look up Uncle Fred Laswell, because, he'll be glad to see you. And I did that, and Fred and I got to know each other pretty well in the short time I was there. And I told him as I was leaving, if anything ever opens up in Tampa that I could do, I'd sure like to move to Florida. That was in June. In October, I got a phone call from Fred saying, do you still want to come to Florida? And I thought it over for about 5 seconds and said yes. So the job that he had lined up for me was art director for a newly formed advertising agency called Lewis Benito Advertising. Fred and Lewis had gone to high school together and they were old friends. So I came to Florida as art director for an advertising agency, which I knew nothing about. So I was starting all over again from scratch. But that worked out well. I was with the agency for 6 years. Then I opened my own commercial art studio for the next 10 years. And then I went to work for another agency as an art director for 2 years. And they had a client that they couldn't get along with. It was Gulf Star Yachts in St. Petersburg. It's a major yacht manufacturer. And the owner of that company, Vince Lazare, was one of the pioneers in fiberglass yacht building. So anyway, my boss at the agency was the account executive for that. And they didn't get along very well. But the owner of the yacht company liked my work, and he offered me a job, working about twice as much as I was making at the agency. So then my career switched again to advertising manager for a major yacht company.
Wow.
I was with them for another 13 years. But then that company was sold to another yacht company, and my job was eliminated. So then I started freelancing with mostly marine accounts. And, well, I did that for another 13 years. And in the meantime, I got remarried to my second wife. And her mother had some connections in Ocala through the horse business. And we took a trip up through Central Florida. And
Excuse me, time out.
Yeah, quit grabbing the paper.
I can put this away now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we both fell in love with Mount Dora. So after a while, we decided that, things in St. Pete were just kind of getting old, and we left Central Florida and Mount Dora. So we sold a house in St. Pete and moved to Mount Dora, bought a house there. And probably after we started there, the city council was having all kinds of problems. They decided to move the library to some place else in the city, and there was a big controversy. So the local newspaper was the Mount Dora Topic, and I started doing some cartoons for them just for fun on the city council trying to figure out where the library was going to go. And one of the reporters on the commercial lived in Mount Dora and logged those cartoons, showed them to the editor and publisher of the Daily Commercial, and they offered me a job, not a job, but a freelance doing editorial cartoons for the paper. And I started off, I think, doing 2 a week at $20 a piece.
what year was this now?
This was 1992.
Wow, that wasn't big money then.
Well, anyway, very shortly, I was doing 3 cartoons a week for $25 a piece.
Yeah,
And I did that for 25 years, until 2017, actually. And at that time, I was getting $100 a piece for the cartoons. But then, once again, management changed, and my job was eliminated. So I kind of fell back on my freelancing again, and there wasn't too much around. But then these cartoon books or children's books came up, and that's what I'm still working on now.
you were doing like a particular character in the book, or
Well, the lady that writes the books originally just wanted to do them for her new granddaughter. So the character kind of looked like the granddaughter, but she didn't have a name. But anyway, the same characters carried through for a series of books now. And I think they've reached a marketable level where she's dealing with some publishers to see about getting them published.
wow, that's great. That's
And
great.
that's pretty much up to date.
Yeah, I was reading in an article. You got comments made. I guess you were pretty well known because Groucho Marx and some of these other people made comments about your work, obviously in a positive sense.
I'd like to know where you saw that, because
I saw it in that piece of paper I had right there that I
Okay.
put on the chair.
Well, no, I didn't have any contact with any.
No, but they must have liked your work because they had remarked about it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Good. But
Still keep my Marine Corps connections. I'm a life member of the Marine Corps League. I did toys for tots in the Umatilla area for over 20 years. And they gave me a nice little plaque to get rid of me, finally. About 3 years in a row, this is my last year. And every time they say, that's what you said last year.
yeah, the Marine Corps League. Which chapter is it? In Umatilla or where would you? Do you know George Wanberg or those guys? He was.
I was in the North Lake Detachment in Leesburg.
Oh, okay. Yeah, George Wanberg was with them, and Andy Messer. And I just did another show with a guy named Tony, who was also a Marine and was with that attachment. Yeah. Good bunch of
I have a
guys.
lot of good friends there, and my memory doesn't serve me too well for recalling names, but there are a bunch of good people. Phil Cumba, I think you know, was certainly one of them.
Bill Cumber was a dear friend of mine,
We
yeah.
walked in many parades together,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
so
Yeah, Bill Cumber, Palu in Okinawa. I always said he was the toughest little man I ever met, you know.
right.
But up till the day he died, he used to have I gave him a photograph of an eagle. He'd put it in his room and study, and he would sit there and relax and look at the eagle. But yeah, you're right. He was in all the parades, and you were in the parades with him, huh?
Oh, yeah. And I worked with Don Van Beck on the Leesburg Veterans Memorial Park.
Oh yeah,
It used to be Fountain Park.
yeah. It's
And
Veterans Park now.
with much effort, they've got the city council to rename it, and has a nice Veterans Memorial there now, which I hope to work on that.
I worked with Don Van Beck. We did a lot of when I was with Lakefront TV, which now I'm with Central Florida Salute. But when I was with Lakefront TV, we did several shows at the park and several interviews with Mr. Van Beck, and did a real good show with World War II named Wally Lambert. Mr. Wally Lambert was Navy, and he brought the landing craft in on D-Day. Yeah, that's a nice park. It really is. They did a nice job there.
I don't think Don's ever really gotten the credit he needs.
Well, they named the walkway after him, and I think I think they did the best they could.
I keep telling Keith Oliver he ought to do a memorial on Don Van Beck.
Well, Don, I did several shows with Don, but yeah, he envisioned putting everything in there,
Oh, yes.
But
Well, the helicopter was a pretty big accomplishment.
yeah, the Huey, Vietnam, and I did a show there, like I said, with Mr. Wally Lambert, all about World War II. A lot of history with all these monuments, and a lot of history right here in this museum.
Oh, yes.
So.
Well, I tried to contribute a little bit to it.
Well, I think you did, and I would like to see more of your artwork. I did check you out. You are on the web. I went on there, checked out your name, the web on the computer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of your stuff and a little bit about you. So you've had an interesting life, my friend.
Well, I'm still working on it.
Yeah, final chapter hasn't been written, right?
Right.
We're doing the kids' book. So you gotta let me know when that's coming out. We'll tell everybody about it.
Okay, I'll be sure to do that.
Yeah. So what do you think about today's, veterans, our active military? You got to give them credit, huh?
I think we've got good leadership, and I have every confidence in them.
Our young people nowadays serving, they deserve everything we can do for them. And I'm glad to hear you did Toys for Tots. So that's a great thing.
I'm sorry?
I was glad to hear you were with Toys for Tots. That's
Oh,
a great program. It's a great program.
Well, I had about a dozen pickups in Umatilla, and I'd take about 3 or 4 truckloads of toys every year to Leesburg.
Good. Well, if you've never been down to Leesburg, look me up. I live in Leesburg.
Do you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, I don't get there too often anymore.
Yeah, well, I can imagine, yeah. But we have our main studio it's called Okahomka, which is really, I think, part of Leesburg.
I know Oklahoma.
Yeah, the Eagles, 4273, Fraternal Order of Eagles. That's where our set is, and that's where we primarily do all our shows. And but we wanted to come here to the museum because this is a great place, and we know that you're a big part of here. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to interview, sir. Anything you'd like to tell the people out there about coming to the museum, or anything about the...
It's a wonderful museum. It's all free. Come and see it.
You're right. Well, unless you have anything else, we're going to wrap this up.
I think you've covered everything.
I try, sir. I thank you very much. And
My pleasure.
I know Marines. I have a lot of friends who are Marines. I was Air Force. I have a lot of friends who were Marines. And when they say goodbye, we may give a salute. And a lot of them won't salute unless they have a cover or they're standing up. And you have a cover. And if you'd like to stand up to say goodbye, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your artwork. Time to say goodbye. And this is how we do it. I don't know if you've ever seen my show before, but just follow my lead. To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Since 2009, Project SOS has assisted our veterans both overseas and here at home to overcome medical issues, homelessness, and disabilities. Initially, our efforts resulted in over 22 clinics opened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Recently, as troops have been withdrawn, we have concentrated on issues here at home. During this past year, we have been able to distribute 42 motorized wheelchairs and numerous mobility devices to our local veterans who have served in World War II and up to and including Afghanistan. We continue to offer solutions to our local homeless veterans in the Ocala National Forest and other Central Florida locations. Project SOS Support Our Soldiers needs your assistance to continue helping a growing homeless veterans population. Over-the-counter medications and personal hygiene supplies are acutely needed. Your financial aid will greatly increase the support they so desperately need.